All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats. We're going to try and peek behind the curtain to understand the hidden mechanics of conflicts that just seem to go on and on forever. Think of this as your citizen's guide to the hidden hand of conflict. It's a question that can drive you crazy. Why do some wars just refuse to end? Decades go by, peace talks fail, and the fighting just persists. It seems completely irrational. But what if it's not? What if the fact that it never ends is actually the whole point? So, the official story we almost always get is a simple one, right? It's side A versus side B, good guys versus bad guys. But that story, it often leaves a lot of unanswered questions. It doesn't explain why the fighting just keeps going. The sources we're digging into today propose a radical idea. To really get what's going on, you have to find a missing piece, a hidden third party, a side C. So our investigation begins with clue number 1. It's something one of the most decorated U.S. Marines in history called the Racket. And what's the first rule of any investigation? You follow the money. This is Major General Smedley Butler. Back in 1935, this guy made an absolutely explosive claim. He said that war, at its core, is a business, a racket. He argued that while the public is told stories of patriotism and sacrifice, a tiny inside group sees it for what it really is, a straight-up business opportunity, one that benefits a select few at the expense of, well, pretty much everyone else. And Butler wasn't just talking. He brought the receipts. He did his own forensic audit of World War I, and the numbers he found are just staggering. While countries were going bankrupt and lives were being destroyed, certain companies were making out like bandits. We're talking profit increases in the hundreds, even thousands of %. Let's just let that number sink in for a second. 1,700%. When you're seeing profit margins that look like that, the whole reason for war starts to look a little different, doesn't it? And that brings us to the most crucial point. If war is giving you a 1,700% return on your investment, then from a cold, hard business perspective, peace isn't the goal. Peace is a catastrophic market failure. This profit motive, the racket, gives us the powerful why a conflict might be manufactured. But just having a motive, that's not enough. You also need a method. So now we turn to our second clue. This one explains the how. It's the sociological trick, the mechanism that allows a conflict to be kicked off and, more importantly, kept alive. This is the work of the hidden hand. This leads us to a sociological principle from L. Ron Hubbard called the third-party law. Now, it claims something pretty wild, that for any fight to keep going, there has to be a third party involved that the two fighting sides don't know about. The idea is that fights between two people are actually unnatural. They'd just burn out on their own if someone wasn't secretly fanning the flames. Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? 3 simple steps. First, the third party isn't just watching from the sidelines. They are an active player. Second, and this is the absolute key, they have to stay hidden. The second side A and side B figure out that side C is playing them both, the theory says the game is over. They stop fighting each other and turn on the real source of the trouble. And third, they actively create the fight by feeding lies, rumors, and false reports to both sides to keep them at each other's throats. And here's the genius of it, the camouflage. The instigator almost never looks like a bad guy. Oh no, they show up looking like a helpful friend, a neutral mediator, a reasonable bystander who's just concerned. The source material uses a perfect analogy. It's like a ventriloquist making 2 puppets argue. As long as the puppets are yelling at each other, the fight goes on. But the second they both look up and see the ventriloquist, the show's over. Okay, so we have our 2 big clues, right? The economic reason, the why, and the sociological method, the how. So now let's put them together. This is where we build a powerful new way of looking at these conflicts. And here's how it all clicks into place. On one side, you've got Butler's racket. That gives us the why, the insane amount of money to be made. On the other side, you've got Hubbard's instigator, which gives us the how, the sneaky, hidden, third-party method to keep the fire burning. Put them together, and you get the Racket-Instigator Model. And this thing operates like a machine, a continuous cycle. It starts with instigation. The third party stirs the pot. That leads to open conflict, where the instigator makes sure nobody knows they're involved. That conflict then feeds the racket. You sell weapons, you extract resources, and finally you get stasis. This is where you actively sabotage any real peace attempts to maintain a state of managed instability. Because let's be honest, a real lasting peace would kill the business model. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like something from a history book, but the whole point of this framework is that it's more relevant now than ever. So, who are the modern-day suspects? Who's playing the third-party role today? Well, today's instigators are often huge institutions. We're talking about powerful defense contractor lobbies that literally write policy, private military companies whose entire business model depends on conflict, think tanks funded by those same contractors that churn out expert reports telling us why we need to fight, and of course transnational corporations that need a destabilized region to go in and scoop up resources. They're all hiding in plain sight, but we rarely see them for what they are, the third party. And the gear that locks this all into place is something called the revolving door. You've probably heard of it. It's when a general or a top government official retires, and the next day they've got a cushy seven-figure job on the board of a defense company, the very same company they were giving billion-dollar contracts to just a week earlier. This basically fuses the state with the racket. It's no longer a conflict of interest. The interests have become one and the same. So, after all that, what can we do with this information? Well, this is the most important part. This is your practical toolkit, your citizen detective checklist. It's a new lens to help you see these conflicts in a totally different way. First question, always. It's the Smedley Butler question. Who is getting rich? You have to look past the flags and the patriotic speeches and look at the stock market. Whose stock is soaring? Who's landing the big contracts to rebuild everything that's being blown up? You just have to follow the money. Now, this next question is a bit more subtle, but it's so important. Don't just ask who benefits from winning the war. Ask who benefits from the war itself, from the fighting just going on and on. For an arms manufacturer, every destroyed tank is a new sale. For a private military company, a permanent stalemate is the perfect long-term contract. Victory is actually bad for business. Question 3. Start looking at the information. Who's feeding the narratives? Is there a think tank funded by weapons companies suddenly publishing dozens of articles about how dangerous some country is and how the only solution is, surprise, surprise, the exact weapon systems those companies sell? That's the modern version of the false report. And finally, pull up a map. Look at where the fighting is happening. Is it, by any chance, sitting on top of massive oil fields, or cobalt mines, or lithium deposits? The chaos and fog of war provide the perfect cover for corporations to move in and extract those resources on the cheap, with no one watching. The war itself becomes the distraction. So there you have it, the Racket-Instigator Model. It gives us a pattern to look for, a powerful profit motive combined with a hidden instigator. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, some of these endless conflicts aren't tragic failures of diplomacy, they're stunning business successes. Now, this framework doesn't give us all the answers, of course, but it does give us a whole new set of questions to ask. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know the pattern, where are you going to see it next?